And welcome to the Bundesliga show, the Predictions Show Thursday evening edition. And boy, we got a lot of interesting matches ahead of match day 10 in the Bundesliga this coming weekend, Friday through Sunday. And I'm joined by Peter. How are you over there in the land of the free, as I call it?
It's interesting how you always call it that. Germany is a free country as well. Last time I checked.
Just about, but yeah, only joke. Yeah.
What a week of Pokal results and everything heading into this weekend. There should be no question what the world's best footballing beat is, but I say that all the time. I say that every week.
Yeah, and who needs to talk about the best footballing league when you've got the best footballing cup as well, which is where we're going to start this weekend because. I mean, we all love the DFB Pokal. I think one of the most underrated tournaments in all of football, in my eyes. It doesn't get anywhere near as much international traction as it should do because this is a superb tournament. Full houses all over Germany for these rounds. And, some amazing matches. And obviously some absolutely huge shocks, which, have kind of made shockwaves all over Europe and the world, really. So I'll come over to you, Peter. I mean, which games really stood out for you as like massive shocks? I mean, some of them are more obvious than others, but which ones did you enjoy the most this week?
Well, I mean, we have to start obviously with Bayern Saarbrücken. Bayern have been crashing out of the Pokal early now. This is going to be the fourth consecutive year. Amazing that once again Bayern is not again contesting this competition. So that was indeed huge. Obviously, the second one that we want to go to is Mainz's defeat to Hertha BSC, which officially ended Bo Svensson's tenure as the head coach of the Rheinhessen. That is that's something you just never expected, considering what Bo Svensson did to help Mainz avoid relegation during the latter half of the 2020-21 campaign. And, to see his tenure come to an end there when you thought that this was the beginning of a very long partnership, that Svensson would be successful in the same ways that Jürgen Klopp and Thomas Tuchel were during their successful stints with Mainz. That's just amazing. There's so many ridiculous upsets, so many crazy results. Why don't I, since I picked two, it's probably about time I turn it over to you so you can talk about your favorite results in the Pokal.
Yeah, I think you mentioned so many shocks, but it wasn't just involving Bundesliga clubs as well. Obviously, Hamburg of the Regionalliga deserve respect as well. I mean, they turned over. I mean, I was kind of laughing a little bit about that one as well because they turned over Greuther Fürth. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a Regionalliga team in the last 16 of the Pokal is some effort, because I mean, there's a massive difference between those regional leagues and like the Bundesliga's Zweite Bundesliga standard. But yeah, I think one of the other ones that really stood out for me involving Bundesliga teams was that amazing match, Paderborn winning away at Freiburg. I mean, that was such an emphatic performance as well. I just felt as though they completely dominated the game, to be honest, from start to finish. And, Freiburg aren't looking their old selves. And this is a kind of, a real killer result for them because the Pokal is a tournament they've done well in the last 2 years. Obviously making the final 2 years ago and then the semi-final last year, both times being beaten by RB Leipzig. And yeah, talking of the Red Bulls, they also were humbled as well. Not really humbled in the same way by a very capable Wolfsburg side, albeit off-form Wolfsburg side the last 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, that was a bit of a shock as well. 2-time winners, 3 times in a row finalists as well. RB Leipzig are not going to be going to the last 16. And I think, obviously, Peter, just before we finish on this topic, I think we've got to come to your boys. What happened on Tuesday night at the Betzenberg?
Something that you experienced and something that we have documented on this channel. The Betze is an absolute pressure cooker. It can boil an opponent with the atmosphere, and that's what happened with Köln, who were a slumping side with many problems of their own. But things turned out just as we predicted on Monday's show. Thanks in large part to the fans and the atmosphere. And just like the match that we attended, the Rote Teufel, the Red Devils of the Pfalz, were able to jump out to a 3-0 lead. An interesting fight back from Köln towards the end. But Yeah, I mean that's something that was quite foreseeable for us. Do you want to talk about your boys Nuremberg
Yeah.
and a high-scoring victory there at the Max
Yeah.
Morlock?
Oh, that was an incredible game. Yeah, like our boys, very similar to last year against Fortuna Dusseldorf, which allowed us to go into the last eight. It was basically a last kick of the match equalizer from the boys, who went on to dominate in extra time, score a really, really good goal. And by the way, if you didn't see that goal, check out the winning goal from Lerkempfer. That was a fantastic strike. And then they missed a penalty, okay, but it didn't really matter in the end anyway. And the boys are into the last 16, along with Rory Stuttgart and Peters Kaiserslautern. So I think we're going to see some really interesting ties ahead of the last 16. As you say, we've got teams from a lot of different leagues. There's Bundesliga, Zweite Liga, the third league, and also Regionalliga. So all top four tiers are represented in this last 16 draw. So check that out. And, hopefully myself and Peter can get over to a game perhaps. And I know I certainly will be if there's a last 16 ties at the beginning of December. So yeah, let's without further ado, we will move on to the I just seen a few questions actually as well from Balam, interesting ones. I don't know if you know about this, Peter, but Balam says, can Peter tell viewers about the Saarbrücken history? They were in the first ever Champions League. I didn't know about that. Did you know that, Peter?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was seeing about that question. Thank you, Balan, for the question. And I was checking on it. To my knowledge, I thought that Saarbrücken actually never made it up to the top tier. It's possible that they did qualify for the European Cup, but I don't remember them ever being in the top tier. Actually, Saarbrücken. They've had a lot of success in the domestic cup competition as of late. Some may recall that they made it to the semifinals in the pandemic year, the first pandemic year, the year in which we had a global lockdown of 3 months, and they ended up losing to Bayer Leverkusen, and that was the 2019-2020 campaign. A huge tragedy, both for fans of this club who are not. I mean, I know people who are fans of Saarbrücken. It's not far from Lautern. As a matter of fact, those who live in the Saarland, they're actually, some of them do root for Lautern because of the proximity. But the fact that they made it to the Pokal semifinal, and the fans were not able to attend. And moreover, the fact that the Regionalliga at that time was suspended during the COVID pandemic. So who knows? Had the pandemic not hit, they could have made it to the final. When you watch that match, Leverkusen-Saarbrücken, you could see that. I mean, the players, the Saarland players, had not been training, as rigorously as Leverkusen had. Leverkusen had match practice and experience once play resumed with the Geisterspiele. So, I mean, it's a fantastic story that they were able to achieve cup glory this time in front of their home fans against the German giants. And those of us who are from that region of Germany and know people who support that club couldn't be happier for them. As I said, I don't remember. I don't think they ever made it to the top tier, to my knowledge. But indeed, it is a special moment for those of us with some roots and some connections to this club.
Yeah, obviously from the smallest Bundesländer as well, Saarland. Like, a lot of people don't really know that much about it. Yeah, they also call it German France as well, because it has a very big connection to France as well in that part. I know a lot of French speakers as well in Saarland, so it's a very interesting little place. And what a story! I mean, to turn over Bayern Munich is just a ridiculous result. It really, really is, and credit to them for that. And I hope they get a good draw in the next round as well against maybe FC Nuremberg. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, yeah, without further ado, we will get onto the Week 10 predictions, which is the main thing in this show today. And as you can see on the screen, we start off with an absolute massive game on Friday evening, a relegation 6-pointer between two sides who, well, they're not the most highly rated teams in the Bundesliga, let's be honest, but Darmstadt do have the home advantage. They also have 2 wins out of 9 as well, which they deserve respect for. Obviously, myself, Peter and Rory analysed that 8-0 result last week in some pretty humorous circumstances, let's say that much. And they will be missing two key defenders, if you can call them that, in that Darmstadt side from this game through suspension. But for me, I'll start on this one. I just feel as though Darmstadt just got more momentum at the moment than VfL Bochum. You know, Bochum should have got the win last week against Mainz. If they had got that win, maybe I'll predict a little bit differently in this one. But for me, I don't know why, but I just really fancy Darmstadt to claim a famous home win here. And, you know, it's going to be a packed crowd, raucous atmosphere. I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win with Malem bagging a double in this one. I think. What do you think, Peter?
An interesting prediction, a very, very difficult match to predict since we're looking at these two bottom table sides. An interesting fact about the match is that this is the first time that these two teams have met in 41 years in the top tier. And that was 1981, 1982. No current Bundesliga players were actually born prior to that date. I actually am going to go with Bochum in this one with a 2-1 win. I liked what I saw from Bochum against Mainz last week. I think that they do have momentum. So we'll split the difference here, and I'll go for Bochum on a match that should be very entertaining with a lot of interesting ramifications.
Yeah, obviously the second big 6-pointer that Bochum have played on a Friday night in a row as well, which is quite interesting. Then, moving on to a team that are in, oh my God, what can you say about Union Berlin anymore? I mean, it's 11 defeats in a row in all competitions, including 7 straight in the Bundesliga. This was just unthinkable for most of the time that Union have been in the Bundesliga this past 4 or 5 years. These are torrid times for the Berlin club, and they've just got to keep going. I really hope they keep faith with Fischer, but I'm starting to get worried, if I'm being honest. I mean, this game is followed by away trips to Napoli and Leverkusen. So basically, I would say if they lose this, then we're very likely to be looking at 14 straight by the next international break. This game is absolutely huge for Union Berlin. But unfortunately, from what I've been seeing, I'm just not seeing anything from this team at all, like absolutely anything. It was a little bit better in midweek against Stuttgart, but it's now 4 straight games without a goal for the Berlin club. And I just don't see any of their attackers on form. You know, Becker has been poor. Behrens, I mean, since his international call-up, has just gone AWOL, basically, since then. I feel as though the new signings have just been a complete car crash, basically. Bonucci, Fofana suspended as well for this by his own club, incredibly. So that just sums up how bad Union have been recently. I think, and as a result, improving Frankfurt, I feel as though they've got more quality in the side. We're starting to see some players like Chaibi come to the front now. Marmouche has done well since coming into the starting lineup as well. And I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win here, actually. I think it's going to be 12 out of 12 defeats for the Eisen Union, I'm afraid. What do you think, Peter?
That's a fair prediction based on the current form of these two sides and the momentum that we see. I'm of the opinion that Frankfurt are overperforming just a bit. You mentioned Scheibe got his first Bundesliga goal last week. I think Marmouche is scoring he's scoring way more than we anticipated, of course. I think that a lot of Frankfurt players are sort of overdue for an off match here, particularly the young Swede in midfield, Hugo Larsson, who has been incredibly impressive. But, I mean, at some point, he's got to have a match more befitting of his age. I think that the fact that this is at home, and we've talked a lot on this pod about the Union Berlin home support and how they are unwavering in support of their team, of the Eisen. I think the streak finally comes to an end here, and Union eke out a 1-0 victory.
Ooh, interesting. Both gone against each other in the first 2 games. So, yeah, let's see what Freiburg, Mönchengladbach has to bring. I think, again, I'd probably say that Mönchengladbach are in a little bit better form in this game. They've had 2 back-to-back wins against faltering Heidenheim. You know, I felt as though they were better in the cup win than in the league win. The league win was actually quite a poor game, in truth. The cup win was a lot more convincing. You know, they were 3-0 up quite early on in that match. And I feel as though they're a side that, you know, is starting to establish a style of play under Sioane. Freiburg, on the other hand, this is probably the poorest I've seen them in probably 3.5 years, in truth. I just feel as though basically, apart from Grifo, there's just nothing going on up front at all. And like pretty much all the goals are coming from corners or free kicks from Grifo, basically. So from open play, they've been pretty abject at times this season. And most people have probably had this down as a Freiburg win. But to be honest, I'm a little bit more tempted to go towards the away side in this one. But it could also be a draw. I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a draw because Freiburg don't lose many games at home. But I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. But I think Gladbach are the more likely winners in this one. What do you think, Peter?
Well, at long last, we sync up. It's weird. In previous shows, we've sometimes synced up on like the initial 3 matches. It's weird. We have of differing opinions in all 3 cases here. Not that these statistics necessarily matter, but when I was reading today's kicker, the last time that Gladbach won away at Freiburg was when Max Eberl was starting as Gladbach's right back. So it's been a hell of a long time since they've won there. They've had difficulty playing away at Freiburg. I don't necessarily think that such statistics really matter. I think that both teams are going to be in administrative mode for a long time here after some very, very busy and hectic and tumultuous roller coaster weeks. I think a 1-1 draw is probably how it shakes out.
Yeah, and then obviously a game between 2 sides at the opposite ends of the table, Mainz and Leipzig. I mean, obviously the news about Bo Svensson it's sad. I'm going to be honest. I think like Urs Fischer, he'd done a very, very good job for 95% of his tenure there, and it's just been this awful run. The last 5 games of last season, and then basically the first 9 games of this, it has been 14 games in all competitions in the Bundesliga without a win, which is clearly too much for the Mainz board in the end. But I still feel as though it's probably not a right decision. I still feel I actually think that even though things are really bad now, he could have turned it round. But I can understand the concern from Mainz, definitely. And, they have been very, very poor at times this season. And the defeat in Berlin was obviously the final straw for them. But, this is a hard game. And, one thing I've got to say is that Mainz have had a lot of hard games at home. They really have. They play Bayern, Leverkusen, Frankfurt. They've had a lot of hard games at home, and this is another one. And I just can't see them getting anything out of the game, to be honest. I don't think they'll have a permanent manager in place before then. It's very unlikely. It's probably going to be the assistant taking charge for this, and Leipzig are going to be licking their lips. Despite the cup exit, I don't think they'll be disappointed too much because obviously they won back-to-back cups, and they want to win the Bundesliga this year. That will be the goal, or get further in the Champions League. So, but I still think they've got way too much. Way too much for this Mainz team. I'm going to go for a 3-1 away win here. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be pretty ugly. I see we have a question from Balam about the carnival kits. I trust Balam's knowledge when it comes to Saarbrücken as well. I'm going to be very interested to read up on that after the show is over. Mainz, also a carnival club. They might be wearing their carnival kits for this one, as will Köln. We'll get to them in a second. For Mainz, it is willkommen to the Bundesliga for Jan Siewert. The interim trainer will be placed in charge of the Rheinhessen for this one. I was not even personally aware that he was in charge of Huddersfield Town in the championship.
The Premiership. It was the Premiership, actually, for when Huddersfield were there.
They were relegated from the Premiership under his watch, and then he was fired after the first game of the season in the Championship. And this was 2018-19, and then 2019-20 campaign. So, Jan Siewert led Huddersfield Town to an impressive single victory in 19 fixtures. We've got injury problems throughout this side, and or this Mainz side, I should say. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty bad steamrolling. I'm going for a 4-0 Leipzig win, despite Leipzig's setback in the cup midweek. We did discuss that. That's really amazing that the 2-time defending Pokal champions have been eliminated. Germans are secretly quite happy about that. But they may not be so happy to watch Leipzig roll over a nice traditional carnival club like Mainz, but I think it's happening 4-0.
Yeah, no, Sievert is anything. I think any Premier League fan will tell you that he's anything but a kind of promising appointment, really, because I think he went down as one of the worst coaches in history in the English game. As you say, 1 win out of 19, and I think he was lucky to even get that 1 win, to be honest. Like, his team was awful, but I mean, he admittedly was part of a very, very poor Huddersfield outfit that year, and they just weren't good enough to compete in the Premier League that year. But it's not the most inspiring appointment, I'm going to be honest, in my view, anyway. So yeah, we'll have to see what the Rheinhessen can do. But yeah, moving on to the next game. Interesting fixture, this one, FC Köln versus FC Augsburg. I mean, Köln are just having a bit of a nightmare season, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I think pretty much everyone predicted that win for Kaiserslautern against Köln. Not really anyone was surprised about it. That's just how bad Köln have been, really. They got humbled by a team in a league lower, but nobody was shocked at all. And it's going to be a hard game for them because Augsburg, they're scoring goals. They're playing a lot better. My boys from Bavaria, they are looking pretty good. I really do like Torup. He looks professional. He's clearly he's unleashed his side, as I said last week. But they don't have a good record against Köln. That's one thing you got to say. Köln comfortably did the double over them last season, even though they were on a similar kind of level last year. And Köln fans know that their team need a win in this game. This is kind of not quite a must win for Köln, but they've got to be really winning this game and taking advantage of the poor form of some of the teams around them. But I think Augsburg have got a lot more goal threat. Demirovic, Tietz, they've got a lot more goal threat. But my issue with Augsburg is, can they keep 11 men on the pitch? And can they avoid giving at least one penalty away every game? That's the big question for them. I really don't know how to go with this game, but I've got a feeling that Köln will win it simply because of home advantage. I just think 3 wins out of 3 is a big step for Augsburg, and it's a step, they will feel they can take, but I think Köln might nick this one. But I think there's going to be goals in it. There's going to be goals, red cards, penalties. I'm going to go for a 3-2 home win in this one. What do you think, Peter?
You put it very well. It's a very, very difficult match to predict given the sort of mercurial form of both of these teams. I will believe in the power of Jes Torup, the Bundesliga's new Danish star, now that Svensson has exited the scene. And I will be optimistic about your boys, and I will give them a 3-2 win away from home on the inverse.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. This is a proper Bundesliga fixture, this one. I think it's going to be a great game, this one. I really do. Yeah, and then another good game should be Hoffenheim Leverkusen as well. 2 company clubs, but still 2 very, very entertaining clubs at the moment. You've got basically Hoffenheim, who seem to finish every chance they create, basically. Apart from the game we watched them live, Peter, when they couldn't finish to save their lives. But yeah, basically, I think, Hoffenheim, they have a lot of good strikers. They started with 4 strikers on the pitch at Dortmund and then didn't score a goal in midweek, incredibly. But I mean, in the league, they've been very, very clinical. They've already scored 20 goals, which is over 2 goals a match on average. And they will give Leverkusen problems. But the problem with Hoffenheim is that they seem to be better away from home, in my opinion. They play better away. And most of their wins, all 5 out of their 6 wins have been away this season. And Leverkusen will fancy the chances. Now, I just think this Leverkusen side is so good that they can't not score goals, basically, And they rested their entire team, pretty much apart from Palacios in midweek. So they're going to be fit and ready for this one. And I think they'll get a 3-1 away win for me. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, the greatest show on the German footballing earth continues. I mean, how can you not tap Leverkusen to win this one? You mentioned the fact that Hoffenheim have been impressive in the league at times as well. But yeah, I like Leverkusen for a 3-1 victory here. They maintain their undefeated record and they maintain their top spot in the Bundesliga table. For the best team in German football at the moment, coached by the best coach, with the most informed players. Wonderful performance from Florian Wirtz last week. We were talking about that on the Monday pod. another goal-heavy performance in the Pokal this week. I just think they're unstoppable. So we're going 3-1 for Leverkusen here.
Yeah, and then obviously it's the Klassiker. Saturday night is the first Klassiker of the season. The game that most international Bundesliga fans look out for first. On the even though actually the two clubs don't hate each other anywhere near as much as what people think they do actually abroad, there is a kind of mutual respect, I think, between the clubs to a certain extent. And yeah, this is a huge one because, I mean, Bayern Munich now, all of a sudden they're under pressure because, they've lost this game in the cup, which nobody thought was even humanly possible. And basically now all of a sudden they're second in the league, they're out of the cup, and all of a sudden this good start to the season isn't looking so good anymore. And especially with the fact they've got a trip to the Signal Iduna Park, it's going to be a real hard game, this. And Dortmund, they've only lost one game in all comps, and that was away at PSG in the Champions League. And, the football hasn't been as good as last season for me, but they're still winning games. And Terzic deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's basically made them into a winning machine, really, in a way. And in 2023 has been a really, really good year for Borussia Dortmund, despite that, collapse against Mainz on the last day of the season. But I actually think this is going to be finally the day when Dortmund can end their drought against Bayern Munich. The first time, I think, since the 18-19 season. They've not beaten them since then in a 3-2 victory for Dortmund. Last year, they got a draw at home against Bayern, and this time I think they're going to go one further. I really do. And I'm going to go for a 3-2 Klassiker win for Dortmund. What do you think, Peter?
I hope you're right. You mentioned the streak that dates all the way back to 2018. It was only that draw in last fall at home that saw the streak beaten, or snapped, I should say. So, well, okay, first and foremost, I should say that you're more than welcome, fans of the Bundesliga are more than welcome to call this der Klassiker, even if Germans don't. And you mentioned as well that the clubs do have a high degree of mutual respect for one another. It's not, it's not a real historic rivalry. It was just something that sort of resulted from the fact that, these are the two richest clubs that were always battling for, who are the only two clubs to have won the German Meisterschale since Wolfsburg, way back 13 years ago, was it? But anyways, I think a 2-2 draw is actually what's going to happen here again. I think that it's going to be a fun match. It's going to be an entertaining match. And I think that the scoreline that we saw last fall seems about fair for where these two teams are going to go. Should be fun. Don't miss it.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that tipped my kind of prediction was De Ligt is going to be missing, and also Kimmich due to suspension as well. So that's two very key players. But yeah, they don't often turn the Bayern over at BVB. So it would be a rare victory if they do manage to pull it off. Anyway, moving on to Sunday games, and yeah, more interesting looking matches. Wolfsburg, Bremen. I mean, Wolfsburg, what can you say really anymore? Like Niko Kovac, I really don't know what his future is going to be, because I'm not sure really whether the fans or the board are going to be impressed with what he's doing. He's lost more games again than he's won with a very strong squad. And, at the beginning of the season, they looked like a decent side. They were like winning games quite comfortably, but now all of a sudden they're losing on a regular basis. But then all of a sudden they turn in that great performance against Leipzig and turf them out the cup. So you really, really don't know what. Basically, in Kovac's whole tenure at Wolfsburg, it's been so unpredictable, like ridiculously unpredictable. And this is another one. Like normally, you'd say Wolfsburg should win this game against Bremen side, who are good at home but struggle on the road. But I'm not quite so sure. I'm really not sure. But I think based on just the squad alone and the quality, I think Wolfsburg and the fact they beat Leipzig in midweek at home, they probably should still get the win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but I wouldn't be putting a bet on it, put it that way. What do you think, Peter?
We sync up again. It's a very, very hard match to predict with Wolfsburg and Kovac. And, it's not just the form of the team, it's also his tactics that are unpredictable. And I'm sure we've mentioned that 5,432 times on this pod. But I think that the quality shines through. I think a 2-1 win is absolutely a fair tip. But just like you, I would not necessarily urge everyone to rush to the window with that prediction, because it's not. It's a very tentative prediction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's probably one of the most hard ones to predict of the weekend. That one for me. But yeah, and then a really entertaining looking game to finish off as well. It's a Baden-Württemberg derby as well, Heidenheim versus Stuttgart. Obviously, not a traditional rivalry because the teams have been basically in other side. Like obviously, Stuttgart have mostly been a Bundesliga side, and Heidenheim have mostly been a Regionalliga side in the history. So basically, yeah, this is two teams. You know, Stuttgart, a really big club. Heidenheim, just your likable kind of small town boys. But I mean, Heidenheim, every home game they played this season has been ridiculously entertaining, like really ridiculously entertaining. And it should be again. I mean, Stuttgart scoring goals. You know, Undava's now got 5 goals this season as a secondary striker. So it's not like he's doing bad by any means. And, you know, Gurasi will miss this game. But I feel as though Undav is good enough to step in. He'll have got a lot of confidence from getting the winner against Union in the Cup in midweek. And he did get a goal last week despite a mixed performance. And I think Stuttgart probably should win this game. I'm a little bit worried about Heidenheim at the moment. I think they're conceding too many goals, too many easy goals from corners. For all the quality they've got up front, you know, Kleindienst, Bester, Dingchi, Pieringer. But at the back, they look like a second league team at the back, I'm afraid. And they've got to start conceding less goals unless they are going to get relegated. And, you know, as good as they've been going forward, I just think the Stuttgart team are going to have a field day against that back line. I'm going to go for a 4-2 away win to end the weekend. What do you think, Peter?
Wow. I mean, well, Heidenheim's ability at home shouldn't necessarily be discounted with the fans and the support that they have. But I think you put it best when you spoke about Undav and his 5 goals against, across all competitions after the winner in the Pokal midweek. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-1 Stuttgart victory. And I prophesize, I prognosticate that we're going to be talking about more. We're going to be looking at some more great Stuttgart-related headlines in Monday's Kiosk Club. Very, very good team, and Rory will be very pleased that we'll be celebrating them once again in a few short days' time.
Yeah, and then just to finish off the show today, let's have a look at the table predictor as a result of match day 10's predictions. So it will be once again Leverkusen leading the way, but this time by 4 points. If the predictions go the way that I went, then Leverkusen are going to be very, very happy come Sunday evening. Stuttgart will move back up to second, incredibly, through 10 games. Dortmund would overtake Bayern, and Bayern would be sitting 4th. I mean, should that happen, would a little bit of pressure start to come on, obviously, Tuchel's shoulders all of a sudden. They're moving down the table. The bottom end would be Mainz, still bottom, still winless. Bochum also second bottom and still winless. And then the likes of Union Berlin dropping into the bottom 3 as well. All of that would mean that Köln would have to beat Augsburg, which won't be easy by any means. And then looking into the mid-table, like Darmstadt mid-table in 12th, and obviously Gladbach also moving in the right direction too. So what about you, Peter? What were your prediction? What's your table looking like after this week's matches?
Well, we had a lot of divergent predictions in this particular week's show, which is something that is not common for us. I can't wait to find out what happens, and I can't wait to talk to you about it on Monday. One thing that we do have in common is that Bayer Leverkusen are top of the table with a 4-point lead. My top 4 is Leverkusen, München in second, following the draw, Stuttgart in third, Leipzig rounding out the top 4 in 5th, with Dortmund, Hoffenheim, and Wolfsburg taking the rest of the European places. My bottom 3 is Darmstadt, Köln, and Mainz, based again on some of these divergent predictions. But it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We'll have to restrain ourselves a little bit in the Monday show, saying I was right, you were wrong, whatever.
Yeah.
Talk about the results in the football. That's far more important than what we predicted individually. But wow, can't wait to find out, man.
It's going to be good. It's going to be another great weekend. Yeah, definitely. So many good games this weekend. Yeah, and just one question from Ballum again before we finish. Yeah, I think can Bayer Leverkusen keep this up? Xabi Alonso is cooking, as Mark says. The Bundesliga needs one or two teams to challenge Bayern and compete. Yeah, Hoffenheim win one week and lose the other. Yeah, I think there's always going to be inconsistent teams, but for me this year, I just feel as though Leverkusen are the real deal. I mean, as long as they can keep the players in January, and obviously Xabi Alonso as well. I mean, for me, the likes of Real and Barca are going to be staring right in this direction. I've heard that both of them are not really performing to the full potential, and they're going to be looking right over towards Nord Rhine-Westphalia, towards Leverkusen and Xabi Alonso. And I really hope that, Xabi just says, okay, I'm going to stay till the end of the season, and then, if all being as it is, maybe he'll go to Bayern, or maybe he'll go to somewhere else in Spain, perhaps, or even England, So, yeah, I believe they are good enough. What do you think, Peter? Are they the real deal this year?
Yeah. I mean, we've been saying that since the beginning of the season. And I think that, really, I remember it might have been the first pod that we did this season. The joke in German footballing circles was that Xabi's going to win the title this year, either with Bayern or with Leverkusen. We just don't know which is going to win the title. So, I mean, one just cannot simply say enough good things about Leverkusen at this point. Everybody is clicking. Jonas Hoffmann and Granit Xhaka are far and away the two most effective summer signings. They're absolutely tearing this league apart, with Florian Wirtz, showing the type of form that he's capable of. Really, I mean, just superhuman form for the first time since he's returned from injury. And Boniface been a little bit quiet on the goal scoring front these past a couple of weeks, comparatively so, but he's overdue to start netting some goals and setting some records. I mean, they are legit. They are for real. I don't think there's a single German that doubts what the old Vizekutzen are capable of doing this year. Germany's Red Company team, favorites to top the league at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. And if you enjoyed what you saw, then check out Over the Bar FB and Over the Bar Extra. Also, Village Footy as well. Village Footy 20 if you want to follow Rory as well. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our videos. Let us know what you guys think as well, because we want to know what you think as well. Yeah, you can send over your predictions. Are yours more like mine or more like Peter's? Because we're very far off each other this week, for sure. But thanks a lot again for joining me, Peter. I'm sure we'll see you again on Monday. And have a good weekend, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.